There had been gossip online saying that anyone who could afford to live in a brownstone in Manhattan was no ordinary person. Chloe Smith thought, they live in a brownstone, and my home is at best a pre-war building not yet renovated. 2 or 3 years ago, during the renovation boom, the residents in her area had high expectations. They heard rumors from relatives and friends about how much money they'd get per square meter in Elm Street, so when the developers didn't offer them as much as they wanted, some people refused to move. Chloe Smith remembered Grandma Brown, her neighbor, who was usually soft-spoken and fond of Chloe Smith. Chloe Smith had even eaten Grandma Brown's braised noodles with beans, which were delicious. Later, during several negotiations with the developers, Grandma Brown sat in front of the community board carrying a kitchen knife, wailing, "I was born here, and I'll die here. Unless you give me tens of millions, I'm not moving." Chloe Smith never expected Grandma Brown to be so bold. Some people didn't want to move for reasons other than money. "No matter how much money you give me, can I find such a good location again?" Those who moved because of the renovation boom all moved to the outer boroughs. In the past, that was the countryside. Anything outside of downtown isn't New York City. My parrot won't speak once it leaves anything outside of downtown. Uncle Davis's parrot was indeed quite talkative. Saying Happy New Year, wishing you all the best, was just child's play. Uncle Davis treasured his bird. Once, a child tried to teach his parrot to curse at his mom, and Uncle Davis chased after him to beat him, because the parrot would be worthless if it learned bad words. Some people wanted to move. Most of the young people wanted to move. It was inconvenient to use the toilet and shower in the courtyard neighborhood, especially in winter, which was too torturous. When you squatted to poop in a public toilet, your butt would freeze. Back W.H. N. Fei Wong was still with Do Wei. She also lived in a courtyard neighborhood. A newspaper once wrote that Fei Wong carried a basin to pour water in the morning, praising her for being down to earth. Indeed, it was hard not to be down to earth when living in a courtyard neighborhood. Chloe Smith had also wanted to move. For a long time, she dreamed of the renovation, dreamed of living in a small 2-bedroom condo with Grandma, no matter the location, where it would be warm even without a heater in the winter, and she could shower in her own bathroom for as long as she wanted without worrying about running out of hot water. Being able to shower at home seemed to be Chloe Smith's only hope in life. It would be best if she could buy a place in the same community as Kevin Johnson. Kevin Johnson was Chloe Smith's childhood friend. His family originally lived at the entrance of the courtyard neighborhood, with a large family. They moved away a few years ago before the renovation boom. Among that group of kids, Chloe Smith was the only girl, and she was also quite pretty, making her an important strategic resource for the boys in the entire courtyard neighborhood to compete for. But Chloe Smith played best with Kevin Johnson. Children were simple-minded. Because Kevin Johnson had fair skin and tender flesh, even though he was a little chubby, he was the best-looking among the boys, with a pair of delicate phoenix eyes. Moreover, Kevin Johnson was very obedient, following behind Chloe Smith to climb trees, touch birds' nests, knock down jujubes, and jump rope without complaint. Later, Chloe Smith stopped thinking about the renovation. One reason was that the developers were exhausted by the residents in this area. People had caused trouble several times, and in a fit of anger, the developers demolished the surrounding areas but left their area untouched. "If you want to stay here, then be imprisoned here. I'm not moving." This made the area like a slum, surrounded by bars and restaurants, creating an courtyard neighborhood commercial district, leaving only a small courtyard neighborhood in the midst of prosperity. The second reason was that Chloe Smith's grandma spent tens of thousands of dollars to renovate their own toilet. Although it was still a small toilet of less than 3 square meters, they redid the waterproofing, installed a water heater and shower head, and could shower at home by covering the toilet, without having to go to the public bathhouse. Chloe Smith was very satisfied. The third reason was that Chloe Smith hadn't contacted Kevin Johnson for more than 2 years. She had almost forgotten about him. February 4, 2019, Lunar New Year's Eve. Chloe Smith was awakened on time by Uncle Robert across the street playing the morning news. Chloe Smith and Grandma lived in a shared courtyard home with two other households. One was Uncle Robert, whose children weren't by his side, but they would pick him up for Christmas/New Year. It was estimated that they would drive over to pick up Uncle Robert this afternoon. Every time, Uncle Robert would say, "My daughter's car can't fit down the alley, I'll have to meet her at the intersection." Today, she heard Uncle Robert humming a tune in the shared courtyard home through the door, so he must be in a good mood. The other household was newly moved in, renting a school district apartment. The couple and a little girl were crammed into one room for the sake of their child attending elementary school. Uncle Robert's morning news wasn't actually noisy, but the theme song of the morning news program was quite shocking. A few years ago, it was an oldies tune, but in recent years, it had been changed to light music. Chloe Smith didn't need to look at the clock to know it was 7 o'clock. Just woken up, she lay in bed in a daze. There was a crack in the plaster on the ceiling, and Chloe Smith had been waiting for it to fall for 2 years. Then, she listened intermittently to the NEWS coming through the door. The news said that a cold wave that occurred once every 20 years was approaching, and a strong cold air from Siberia had arrived in New York City. The last time New York City was this cold was in the winter of 1999. It was expected to be a freezing Christmas/New Year, and people were advised to take precautions against the cold. No wonder her feet were cold when she woke up. Chloe Smith turned over and took out her phone from under her pillow. Chloe Smith didn't have many friends on WhatsApp, and she basically didn't look at her moments, so she opened Twitter to browse, read a few family gossip posts, and found them boring. The phone was boring, and life was boring. Chloe Smith was a freshman this year, attending university in New York City. People always said that people from New York and LA rarely leave their hometowns to go to college. Chloe Smith wasn't like that. At first, she wanted to go to Chongqing, to Sichuan. She felt that she was a spiritual Sichuanese, because the people there gave her a very relaxed feeling. New Yorkers, how should she put it, were quite competitive. This kind of competitiveness was imperceptible, always holding on to an inner drive. But she didn't go in the end, because of Grandma. She attended a pretty good university in New York City, not the best too, but it was still respectable to say it out loud, and the major was good too. People said it would be easy to find a job, but Chloe Smith didn't really care. Chloe's dad, a New Yorker, passed away when Chloe's mom was pregnant. It was the dead of winter, and quite a sensational story at the time. He was hit in the head with a brick, especially since the woman was still pregnant. According to Chloe's mom, Chloe's dad had all the shortcomings of a New Yorker, spoke carelessly, and acted like he was a big shot wherever he went, taking himself too seriously. He wasn't a bad person, just too unreliable. If he were reliable, he wouldn't have been hit in the head with a brick. Chloe's mom later found a reliable uncle, and they immigrated 2 years ago. Nowadays, communication is developed, and going abroad is no big deal. There's no issue of expensive overseas phone calls. You can video chat and send WhatsApp messages as long as you have internet. But Chloe's mom didn't send a WhatsApp message even once a month, and when she did, it was to ask Chloe Smith to order things from Amazon and find a chance to send them over. Chloe Smith still remembered the winter 2 years ago. She was still a senior in high school at the time, and she saw her mother at the entrance of the shared courtyard home after school, which was rare. Chloe's mom didn't even enter the door. Seeing Chloe Smith, she actually looked relieved. "Chloe, you're back. Your grandma went out for a walk and will be back soon. Mom has something to tell you, and then I'll leave." As she spoke, she tugged at her scarf, feeling like she had been waiting here for a long time. Chloe Smith took her backpack off her shoulder, twisted her shoulder, which ached from the heavy books, and walked into the shared courtyard home without a word, dragging her backpack. Seeing that Chloe Smith was ignoring her, her mother quickly said in a few words, "Mom's flight to Los Angeles with your uncle is the day after tomorrow. You and Grandma take care of yourselves." Chloe Smith stood in the shared courtyard home without turning her head, and when she turned back, Chloe's mom had already left, probably afraid of running into Chloe Smith's grandma. It wasn't that Chloe Smith had never felt motherly love. When she was little, she remembered her mother saying the most, "Don't go ice skating on Central Park Lake in the winter. A bunch of wild kids just know how to play, and many of them fall in and freeze to death." It seemed that only this one thing was worth telling her, repeating it over and over. Chloe Smith was quite puzzled, as she hadn't said she was going ice skating. But this motherly love was too thin, so Chloe Smith only remembered this one thing. From the time Chloe Smith could remember, she had lived in this shared courtyard home with 2 rooms with her grandma and grandpa. Later, Grandpa also passed away one winter, and she and Grandma were left to rely on each other. Saying the phrase "rely on each other" gave people a rather miserable feeling, but it wasn't actually like that. Chloe Smith's grandma was more open-minded than Chloe Smith thought. She often did TV shopping, smoked half a pack of cigarettes a day, stewed pork knuckles every week, and had a loud voice. She was quite the extraordinary woman in the past. Grandma didn't have much of a pension, but it was enough for the 2 of them. After Chloe Smith went to college, she also worked part-time, and they had more than enough to eat, wear, and use. Old people slept less. Grandma usually got up at 5 o'clock, then went for a walk, and went to the farmer's market to buy groceries. No matter what, she would always be home by 7 o'clock. At 7:15, she originally wanted to stay in bed until 8 o'clock, but she really had to pee, so she got up in her cotton slippers to go to the bathroom. The bathroom was next to Grandma's room. After Chloe Smith came out of the bathroom, she saw that Grandma's room was still closed, and the curtains hadn't been drawn. Since she was already up, Chloe Smith didn't want to go back to bed. Without thinking too much, she pushed open the door to Grandma's room, thinking of talking to Grandma, since it was Christmas/New Year. "Grandma." Seeing the old woman lying on the ground, a terrifying word instantly appeared in Chloe Smith's mind, but she quickly calmed down, didn't cry or shout, and directly called an ambulance, clearly stating the address, phone number, and situation. While waiting for the ambulance, she grabbed her medical record card, health insurance card, wallet, keys, and charger, and poured herself a cup of hot water to drink. It was a sudden heart attack. When she was sent to the hospital, the doctor said that if she had arrived any later, she probably wouldn't have made it. But luckily, it was a false alarm. After busying herself for most of the day, since it was Christmas/New Year, the hospital was staffed with on-duty doctors. After seeing that the old woman's condition was stable, they arranged a bed for her and went to other wards. Grandma had already woken up and was reaching into her pocket for a cigarette, but Chloe Smith stopped her, and she became a little petulant. Chloe Smith ignored her and just sat by the bed, peeling an apple for her, carefully and slowly, as if she were carving a work of art. Grandma was as if nothing had happened, lying in the hospital bed and complaining to Chloe Smith that the stray cats in the shared courtyard home were becoming increasingly rampant. She had seen a stray cat standing on the windowsill early in the morning, staring straight at her, which was quite scary. It was a white cat, but it might not have been a stray cat. It was estimated that she had a heart attack because she was frightened by this cat. Grandma said angrily. She wasn't really angry at the stray cat. Chloe Smith knew that she just wanted to smoke. After talking for a long time, seeing that Chloe Smith didn't respond, she turned her head to look at Chloe Smith, who was still peeling the apple, and saw that her granddaughter's eyes were red. Grandma turned her head to look out the window and said, "I'm hungry. I don't want to eat the hospital food. It's expensive and disgusting. Go outside and buy me some eggplant and rice stir-fry. That's what I want to eat." Chloe Smith walked around the hospital and finally found a home-style restaurant, repeatedly telling them to use less oil in the eggplant. When Chloe Smith came back with the food, she saw a familiar face in the next ward. Aunt Teresa Wilson? Chloe Smith initially saw a back view and wasn't too sure. When the woman turned her face, Chloe Smith called out, Oh, isn't this Chloe Smith? Aunt Teresa Wilson heard her name and turned around. Chloe Smith saw Kevin Johnson lying in bed with his eyes closed. At first, she didn't dare to recognize him. She hadn't seen Kevin Johnson for 2 years. In 2 years, Kevin Johnson had lost a lot of weight. Kevin Johnson had been a little chubby since he was a child. Chloe Smith's grandma's description was very amusing. She said he was like enriched flour steamed bun. In the past, every household couldn't afford refined rice and flour. The steamed buns were yellow and hard, like cornbread. Only steamed buns made with enriched flour were white, fluffy, and sweet. So, even when Kevin Johnson was in his teens, Chloe Smith still had him saved as enriched flour steamed bun. Chloe Smith and Kevin Johnson went to the same elementary school and middle school. They weren't together in high school, but they were next to each other. The 2 districts' top high schools were just 2 streets apart. So, even after Kevin Johnson's family moved away, they still played together, studied at the library on weekends, or went to the bookstore to read novels together. Putting aside the chubbiness, Kevin Johnson was quite good-looking and tall. The little chubby boy who used to follow behind Chloe Smith had become 5'11" by his senior year of high school, more than a head and a half taller than Chloe Smith. Kevin Johnson had a refined and mischievous air. When he was rebellious, he could make the teacher half dead by interrupting in class, speaking slowly and deliberately annoying. She remembered when the teacher in middle school asked why Runtu, who wore a silver neck ring, had a purplish red face, and why Mr. Lu Sun specifically wrote it that way. Kevin Johnson said in a strange voice, he was strangled by the silver neck ring on his neck. But he had always been very patient with Chloe Smith, and his tone of voice was different. And a tone that was only for Chloe Smith. In the past, when he came to the shared courtyard home to find Chloe Smith, he would shout Chloe Smith as soon as he entered the courtyard neighborhood, as if Chloe Smith wouldn't come out if he didn't shout so loudly. This made the neighbors tease him, "Kung, you're here to find your little girlfriend again." Actually, they weren't girlfriend and boyfriend yet, but they were just one step away from breaking through the paper window. Every time, Kevin Johnson would say, "You're wrong. She's my wife." Girls would be moved by this kind of unique affection. Chloe Smith admitted that she had been moved at first, but she didn't know how to cherish it. If it hadn't been for that big fight 2 years ago, Chloe Smith felt that they would definitely be together. Even now, Chloe Smith still thought that she had been very muddle-headed back then. Not just pretty, but too muddle-headed. 2 years ago, Chloe's mom came to find Chloe Smith to tell her about going abroad. Chloe Smith felt that she didn't care, anyway. She had never cared for her from childhood to adulthood. Living in the vast New York City, she was as if she didn't have a mother. Going abroad or not made no difference. The unfortunate thing was that Kevin Johnson also came to find Chloe Smith that night, saying that he might apply to colleges in the United States. He repeatedly emphasized might, and he didn't want to go. His mom was forcing him to apply. He was still resisting. If it were normal times, Chloe Smith wouldn't have reacted so strongly. Nowadays, there are WhatsApp, QQ, and FaceTime, millions of ways to contact each other. It's too difficult to lose contact. But that was what Chloe Smith said at the time. Go if you want to go. Why are you telling me? Who am I to you? You take yourself too seriously. Who can't live without whom? If this was told to others, they might think it was quite childish. It was just a quarrel between young lovers, but for Kevin Johnson and Chloe Smith, it meant not contacting each other for 2 years. After this quarrel, they were as if competing with each other, and neither of them would give in. Chloe Smith knew that she had really hurt Kevin Johnson's heart, because Kevin Johnson said something at the end that day. He said it with a smile, but Chloe Smith knew that he was very angry. Chloe Smith, you just bully honest people. If my mom makes you angry, and you take it out on me, I don't mind. I'm just cheap. I like you bullying me. But what you said today was too hurtful. This time, it has to be your turn to coax me before I can feel better. Then he said, it's always me chasing after you. Can you chase after me once, okay? Later, Chloe Smith pondered his complaint and tasted a hint of coquetry. But she was too naive and muddle-headed at the time. A few words made a 6'1" boy cry in the street. It was something that could have been resolved with a few words of coaxing from Chloe Smith, but they had been stuck in a stalemate ever since. After the college entrance exam, Chloe Smith learned from a mutual friend that Kevin Johnson hadn't gone to the United States and had been admitted to one of the best 2 universities in New York City, which was very respectable. After Chloe Smith learned about this, she felt quite relieved that he hadn't ruined his future because of her. Later, she felt that she was being presumptuous. Why would he ruin his future for you? Who are you? It's just a broken relationship, is it worth it? That unspoken apology had been stuck in her heart. It was as if she wasn't wrong if she didn't apologize. She was deceiving herself. After that quarrel, Chloe Smith found countless excuses for her muddle-headedness, such as she didn't have a sense of security, she was afraid of losing him, she had a tragic childhood. In the end, Chloe Smith gave up and summarized it in one sentence: she was just scum. So she deserved it. She deserved him starting a good life, and she deserved suffering until now. But there were also benefits. Chloe Smith felt that she was becoming increasingly indifferent, without desire or joy, like a Buddhist nun. When she was with Kevin Johnson in the past, she would still have the heart of a girl, but now, she was only in her early 20s, but her heart was as still as water, and she felt that her connection with the world was only Grandma. She had even thought that if Grandma was gone one day, she would commit suicide. Anyway, there was no expectation in living, and living was just enduring the days. What's wrong with Kevin Johnson? Looking at the motionless Kevin Johnson in the hospital bed, Chloe Smith's voice trembled slightly. As long as he didn't speak, he was the picture of peace and quiet, and now that he had lost so much weight, he was like the second male lead in a romance drama, gentle and refined. Kevin. Aunt Teresa Wilson began to wipe away her tears, and Chloe Smith's heart tightened. But then she heard Aunt Teresa Wilson say, "He's such a worrywart, that unlucky child." On Lunar New Year's Eve, he insisted on taking the family cat to the hospital, saying that it hadn't eaten anything from yesterday evening until today. I say the cat is just old and it's its time. But he wouldn't listen, and he was hit by a motorcycle on the way to the animal hospital. Then he was sent to the hospital. His leg was put in a cast, and the other examinations didn't show anything else. He was given general anesthesia and hasn't woken up yet. The doctor said that young people recover quickly. On Lunar New Year's Eve, it's really upsetting. It's good that he's okay. Chloe Smith didn't know what to say, so she asked, "What about the cat?" Aunt Teresa Wilson was stunned. "Right, what about the cat?" Kevin Johnson's cat was a miracle among cats. A white Persian cat, said to have been picked up, had been kept at home. Chloe Smith remembered that the cat had been there since She was little. Counting, it must be more than 20 years old this year. That's not common among cats. Stray cats usually live for 10 years or so, and it's already difficult for well-cared-for domestic cats to live to 17 or 18. His cat was conservatively estimated to be 21 years old, 1 year older than Chloe Smith. This cat had a rough fate. It was often tormented by Chloe Smith and them when they were little. They even assigned roles to the cat when playing house. Chloe Smith played the mom, Kevin Johnson played the dad, and the cat played their disappointing son. They dressed up the cat and forced it to do homework. The cat was called Don't Touch, because it always rummaged through the trash can. Every time they yelled at it, over time, it thought that was its name. Chloe Smith was still thinking about the cat when she went home to get something that night. At the hospital, Grandma had taken 2 sleeping pills and had gone to bed early. Chloe Smith was going to stay overnight, so she planned to go home to take a shower, change her clothes, and then go back to the hospital. On Lunar New Year's Eve, every house was lit up, and families were reunited. There were hardly any cars on the street, a rare moment of quiet. Everyone had gone home. In the past, there was a pretentious saying circulating online, "Whenever it snows, New York City will turn into Beiping." This saying gave Chloe Smith goosebumps. In her opinion, New York City was just New York City. Good things and bad things happened here every day. People came, people left, some people lived here, some people died here, and it was no different from any corner of the world, even worse. She didn't love this place, and she didn't have any sense of belonging here. Terrible things always happened in the winter. She hated New York City winters. Everything was cold, showering was cold, going to the bathroom was cold, the heaters were always insufficient, and people were always leaving her in the winter. Some were unavoidable, like her dad, like her grandpa, some left voluntarily, like her mom, and some were angered away by her, like Kevin Johnson. After arriving home, Chloe Smith first went to the refrigerator to find something to eat. She remembered that there was still a bottle of strawberry yogurt in the refrigerator, but she couldn't find it after searching for a long time. As if out of spite, she searched twice more even though it clearly wasn't there. There was a bad egg in the refrigerator, with a stinky smell, so she cleaned the refrigerator from the inside out, but the strawberry yogurt was still gone. Then, looking at the refrigerator, which had everything but was missing a bottle of strawberry yogurt, Chloe Smith suddenly cried. Chloe Smith leaned against the refrigerator, crying uncontrollably. The last time she had cried so badly was when the old dowager died in Shaoxi-Lang. She felt that Shinbijuan was too pitiful, losing the grandma who cared for her the most. If others asked, she would say that she especially wanted to drink strawberry yogurt at this moment, so she was crying. She was just being pretentious, so what? Chloe Smith was too scared. She was afraid that grandma would be gone. Just like that bottle of strawberry yogurt that she thought would be in the refrigerator, sometimes a person's disappearance was even more bizarre. They were just gone without a trace. God didn't care if it was Christmas/New Year, whether you were a man or a woman. There was no warning when he wanted to take someone away. Chloe Smith looked at the window. The cat was as if it had suddenly appeared there. Or maybe it had been watching Chloe Smith cry for a long time. A white Persian cat. But Chloe Smith wasn't sure if it was Don't Touch. Because the cat looked very young. There were no red tear stains around the eyes of an old cat. The white cat saw that Chloe Smith had noticed it, so it jumped down from the window and ran out of the shared courtyard home. As if possessed, Chloe Smith followed the cat out the door. The night of Central Park Lake was rarely gentle. It was as if she had returned to her childhood. Back then, the bars in the back lake hadn't sprung up yet. Everything in this world was clearly defined. A lake was a lake, a pre-war building not yet renovated was a pre-war building not yet renovated, a tree was a tree, and even winter was very serious, authentically cold. Chloe Smith chased the white cat to the lake. Watching the cat leap onto the railing, when she rushed over, the cat disappeared again, as if it had vanished into the lake. Chloe Smith's heart was in her throat. She grabbed the white stone railing and kept looking down, but Central Park Lake was calm and dark, without a splash or a sound. The cat had just disappeared. Chloe Smith stared at the lake in a daze, feeling confused, as if she was dreaming. At this moment, a gentle and deep male voice sounded in her ear. Chloe Smith thought it was her imagination, because the voice was exactly the same as Kevin Johnson's. "What are you looking for?" Chloe Smith turned her head sharply and was stunned. It was Kevin Johnson. It was Kevin Johnson without a cast on his leg. But upon closer inspection, it wasn't. They did look alike, and their voices were similar. But a person's habits wouldn't change, the tone of voice, facial expressions, demeanor, and posture. The man by the railing was only wearing a dark brown tweed jacket, which was quite retro, like a style that would have been popular a decade ago. Underneath the jacket, the collar of a white sweater was revealed. It wasn't a turtleneck sweater, so a small section of his neck was exposed. He looked quite cold. He stood casually by the railing, but his posture wasn't sloppy. There was a casualness in his temperament that was rarely seen in young people. Young people were always flustered. But this man wasn't. Chloe Smith didn't hear him come. He was as quiet as if he had been standing here all day long. Chloe Smith opened her mouth, but no sound came out. This face was too similar. Her mouth opened and closed, as if another Kevin Johnson was speaking. As if Kevin Johnson, who wasn't angry at her, was speaking. The man said again, "I just saw a cat run over there. If you're looking for that cat." The man took his hand out of his pocket and pointed to the opposite side of the lake. Chloe Smith looked to the other side of the lake in the direction he was pointing. It was pitch black, with nothing there. The lights in the area where the bars were supposed to be were all off. There weren't even any street lights. It was really strange. In this strange environment, she was talking to a man who looked exactly like Kevin Johnson but was completely unfamiliar. Chloe Smith didn't feel scared. It was as if it was supposed to be like this. "By the way, my name is Trenton Moore. I'm Kevin Johnson's uncle." The man smiled, keeping a certain distance from her, probably afraid that Chloe Smith would be scared, so he didn't get close. For some reason, Chloe Smith felt that the man in front of her wasn't real. He was like a halo in an art film, blurred but definitely present. In the cold air of a New York City winter, this feeling of softened edges was very strange. Chloe Smith said, "I'm looking for a white cat. But I'm not sure which one I'm looking for. 2 cats are missing, and I don't know if they're the same one. Going around and around." Chloe Smith felt that she sounded stupid, and the more she tried to explain, the more confused she became. She thought that Trenton Moore wouldn't have the patience to listen to her talking nonsense. "It's still early, how about I help you look? It's Christmas/New Year, and there's no one on the street. It should be easy to find." Trenton Moore put his hands back in his pockets. "We'll find it if we walk along the lake. I promise, before dawn." Trenton Moore was confident. Chloe Smith didn't know why he was so sure, but for some reason, this man's words were very convincing. Chloe Smith found his words persuasive, because she followed him unconsciously, just like she had chased the cat out of the shared courtyard home. Chloe Smith felt that Central Park Lake was different from usual at this moment, but she couldn't quite put her finger on what was different. It felt like being in a dream, where you can only see the front and the present clearly. You can't look back, the past is shrouded in mist. Everything in this world revolved around her, and anything she didn't pay attention to didn't exist. Trenton Moore walked slowly on Chloe Smith's outer side with his hands in his pockets, sometimes stopping to wait for Chloe Smith, seemingly not in a hurry to find the cat. "How old are you this year?" Trenton Moore had a face that looked like he was in his early 20s, but his tone was like an elder's. "I'll be 20 after my birthday this year, but my birthday hasn't come yet. It's still more than a month away. I'm more than 3 months younger than Kevin Johnson." Chloe Smith answered seriously. Kevin Johnson's birthday was especially easy to remember, January 1st, 1999. The old people always said that January 1st was a big birthday. If a person's life wasn't good, they would be crushed by the birthday, and if a person's life was good, they could suppress the birthday and gain good fortune. It was the same with birthdays, names, and tattoos. Some people just didn't have the fate to withstand it, like Chloe Smith's dad. Grandma said that her son-in-law, who was hit in the head with a brick, used to be a West Side thug who didn't do honest work and was always getting into fights. He even had guardian angel tattooed on his back, but he couldn't handle it in the end. He was hit on the back of the head, and blood flowed all over his back, staining guardian angel tattoo red. Chloe Smith's grandma was particularly taboo about this afterwards. When Chloe Smith was born, when it came time to name a family of swallows had just moved into a bird's nest under the eaves of the shared courtyard home, flying in and out with branches every day. Grandma pointed to the bird's nest with a cigarette in her hand and said, "Let's call her Chloe Smith, a small name so the child can be healthy." Besides, swallows nesting was a good omen. Kevin Johnson never celebrated his birthday. Chloe Smith didn't know why, and when she asked, he only said it was a family rule that men didn't celebrate birthdays. She felt that the boys born in Kevin Johnson's family were too pitiful. Chloe Smith had said before, "Then I won't celebrate either, so you won't be sad." Kevin Johnson was a little surprised and said, "I'm not sad." Then he yanked the hood of Chloe Smith's hoodie over her face. Chloe Smith found this behavior a bit inexplicable. Should be a sophomore. Trenton Moore nodded. Chloe's mom had never figured out Chloe Smith's grade. From elementary to middle school, and from middle to high school, it always took a long time before she cared about it. Sometimes it felt like she suddenly wanted to exercise parental authority, asking how the final exams were, when it was actually 2 months before the end of the semester. Trenton Moore sighed, 20 years old, such a great age. Chloe Smith asked curiously, "How old are you, Uncle Trenton?" "I'm probably in my 40s this year." Trenton Moore looked into the distance. Chloe Smith caught the word probably in his sentence, and it felt like it wasn't a definite statement. What shocked Chloe Smith even more was that Trenton Moore was over 40. The Kong family's genes were too superior. "You look really young," Chloe Smith said sullenly, because she thought that if Kevin Johnson also inherited this heaven-defying gene, wouldn't she look like Kevin Johnson's aunt in 20 years? She couldn't even imagine it. Probably realizing Chloe Smith's confusion, Trenton Moore smiled and didn't answer. "There used to be a sweet potato vendor around here." Trenton Moore pointed to a bubble tea shop. "You're too young, you might not have seen it. A tin bucket, about this big." As he spoke, Trenton Moore stretched his arms into a circle and gestured, "Usually an abandoned gasoline barrel. Just brush it and you can use it, poke a hole in the bottom for firewood." The newspapers said that the sweet potatoes baked in that thing were harmful to the body. But ordinary people don't care about that, as long as it's delicious. Trenton Moore shrugged and said, "But it was really delicious. When I was going to school around here, I could smell the fragrance from far away when I got home from school. I secretly bought it and ate it, and then I couldn't eat dinner at home, so my mom beat me and said I wasn't eating proper food." While Trenton Moore was talking, Chloe Smith secretly looked at the man. The man's face was a little red from the wind, and his eyes smiled when he talked about memories. It was a slightly wistful smile, clearly smiling, but also a little melancholy. And right where Trenton Moore was pointing, a man pushing a tin bucket selling sweet potatoes actually appeared. New York City had banned these kinds of food stalls long ago. Chloe Smith had really never seen one in years. Chloe Smith blinked. It really did appear here in an instant. "Uncle Lou, why aren't you home yet?" Trenton Moore greeted, as if they were old acquaintances. Uncle Lou grinned when he heard this, and tucked his hands into his sleeves, shrinking his neck. "Yeah, I've only got 3 left, I'll go back after I sell them." "Damn, it's really fucking cold today." The weather forecast said that a cold air mass from Siberia is passing through, tormenting people during Christmas/New Year. "Yeah, they say it's a cold wave that only happens once every 20 years. The last time it was this cold was in 1999, Chloe Smith added. But Uncle Lou didn't respond and didn't even look at her, as if she wasn't there. "I'll take th. all, no need to give me change. Go home quickly." Trenton Moore took out an old version of the bill from his pocket. It was an old version because Chloe Smith had never seen it before. "This is money from a kid's family, how can I take more money from you?" Uncle Lou insisted on putting 2 quarters back into Trenton Moore's hand. Then he took out 3 sweet potatoes from the tin bucket, wrapped them in craft paper, and said while wrapping them, "You're doing great, the first college student in our community board." Trenton Moore didn't insist, "Are they sweet?" "Don't worry, they're all sweet." Trenton Moore took the 3 baked sweet potatoes. The heat from the sweet potatoes spread out in the winter night, a warm and fragrant aroma. It smelled warm. Trenton Moore handed Chloe Smith a roasted sweet potato. "It's okay if the skin is burnt, let me peel it off for you. Blow on it when you eat it, or you'll burn yourself. I'll keep the remaining 2 here for now, and I'll bring them home for you later." Chloe Smith took a bite. The sweet potato had been roasted for a long time, and it was sweet and soft, almost melting in her mouth. Kevin Johnson didn't like snacks, but he often brought Chloe Smith internet-famous snacks that people were checking in on social media. He never came empty-handed. It was either something to eat or something to drink. Kevin Johnson carried big bags and small bags, and Chloe Smith would complain, are you running errands for me again? Chloe Smith rarely satirized people. She was always pretending to be gentle and quiet, and only let herself go in front of Kevin Johnson. She would even drag Kevin Johnson to observe a dog pooping on the road from a distance. And sometimes she had a way of cutting people down with her words. For example, she privately described their homeroom teacher as a white marble radish, because their homeroom teacher was fair and chubby but always had a stern face. This description amused Kevin J. Onson. Chloe Smith, I've discovered that you've inherited the true essence of your grandma, he said. Really? What flower, white marble radish, that's too mean. Quietly wicked. Every time Chloe Smith retorted him, Kevin Johnson would look at her with a smile, sometimes unable to resist pinching her face. Like a Saint Bernard, even his malicious face-pinching had a. Chloe Smith had read about Saint Bernards in a collection of short stories and essays for teens, saying that this kind of dog was large, with thick fur, and often had a small barrel tied around its neck, filled with vodka, and followed people into the snowy mountains to rescue them. When they saw someone frozen unconscious on the mountain, the Saint Bernard would use its body temperature to warm them, and when the person woke up, they would drink the alcohol hanging around its neck. Sometimes she ate a lot, and Kevin Johnson would reluctantly eat what she left over. At first, she felt awkward and a little disgusted. Kevin Johnson would raise his voice, I'm not even disgusted yet. Besides, you can't waste food. My mom said that wasting food means you won't be reincarnated as a human in your next life. Middle and high school boys get together and their mouths aren't clean. It wasn't that they had to say swear words, but they just felt that it had a rhythm and was a good filler word. Especially when the teacher took up gym class, cursing the teacher was really satisfying. But Kevin Johnson never swore in front of Chloe Smith. Sometimes when he got used to saying it, it would slip out, but he would always stop halfway and replace it with a civilized word. But what Kevin Johnson didn't know was that Chloe Smith wasn't as well behaved as he thought. Chloe Smith would swear silently in her heart, and she was very creative. She was really quietly wicked. The old men in the courtyard neighborhood were all masters of swear words. She had heard them for more than 10 years and had learned them. Chloe Smith stopped and looked back at Uncle Lou, only to find that Uncle Lou had long disappeared into the night. The back was a blur. Trenton Moore turned back to look at Chloe Smith, who was still holding a half-eaten sweet potato in her hand, staring blankly back. Are you scared? Trenton Moore asked. Chloe Smith felt that he meant something. What was she afraid of? Was she afraid of the dark, or the fog, or him? Chloe Smith wasn't sure. Is this a dream? Chloe Smith asked uncertainly. She had felt something was wrong just now, but they all said that dreams were black and white. The world Chloe Smith was in at this moment was in color. Like Trenton Moore's brown wool coat, the roasted sweet potato, and Trenton Moore's cheeks, which were a little red from the cold. If it's not a dream, would you be scared? Trenton Moore didn't answer her question directly. A little, Chloe Smith said hesitantly. If it was a dream, she could wake up. If it wasn't a dream, she didn't know how to leave. Although she had no expectations for real life, there was still Grandma outside, and an apology she owed to Kevin Johnson. I'll send you back before dawn. Trenton Moore's voice was very gentle. Before that, will you talk to me for a while? Chloe Smith nodded, but she really wanted to ask, from where to where? Where was here? She vaguely felt that all of this might be related to that strong cold air. This is winter 20 years ago. Trenton Moore answered the question in her heart and then pointed into the distance. I want to show you what New York City looks like in my memory. As soon as he finished speaking, the color of the world changed. Like an old photograph, yellow, the edges of things soft, with the tenderness of the years. And the night turned into dusk. The sky was a strange pink. It's beautiful, isn't it? Trenton Moore asked. A flock of pigeons flew overhead. Chloe Smith looked up. The sky was full of crisscrossing power lines and circles of flying pigeons. Trenton Moore also looked up at the pigeons, Uncle Davis's pigeons. Chloe Smith knew that Uncle Davis used to raise pigeons. She and Kevin Johnson had also helped to break corn kernels. But Uncle Davis's last pigeon had died a few years ago. Later, he switched to raising a parrot. Uncle Davis also said, raising a flock, dying one after another, you have to be sad several times. It's easier to raise one. This made Chloe Smith sad for a while. Chloe Smith looked around. 2 old men were sitting on small stools by the lake, playing chess, and a group of old people were watching. The chess players hadn't done anything yet, but the onlookers were about to start arguing. Central Park Lake was still a wild lake at that time, not very well managed, and full of weeds. In winter, the weeds were frozen straight in the ice. Trenton Moore didn't say anything more and continued to walk along Central Park Lake. He hummed a song as he walked, an oldie tune. Faye Wong and Na Ing sang Meet in 1998 on the Christmas/New Year Gala in '98. When she sang this song, Na Ing was already a diva in the mainland music scene, and Faye Wong's popularity in the mainland hadn't risen yet. Na Ing invited Faye Wong to sing together to thank Faye Wong for bringing her into the Hong Kong and Taiwan markets. The combination of the two voices was very textured, and it became a hit all over the country after singing. It was popular for a whole year from '98 to '99. The two passed in candy-coated hawthorn skewers cart. Trenton Moore also knew him. He called that person Uncle Davis. He dug out all the small bills from his pocket and handed them to Uncle Davis. The hawthorns with glutinous rice inside are delicious, and a skewer of candied yam for our girl. Trenton Moore pointed to the bamboo pole full of candy-coated hawthorn skewers and looked at it. I want this one with more sugar. There was a thin layer of rice paper wrap on the outside of the candy-coated hawthorn skewers. When Chl. O.E. Smith was little, she liked to eat that rice paper wrap. The rice paper wrap had no taste, and it disappeared in her mouth. She thought it was very magical. Then Kevin Johnson would tear off his rice paper wrap and give it to her every time. Kevin Johnson also said that there was rice paper wrap sold online, and you could buy it and eat it. Chloe Smith thought about it and said, never mind. Because what she loved to eat was the rice paper wrap wrapped on the candy-coated hawthorn skewers, not the rice paper wrap itself. Just like the almonds in chocolate, and the shiitake mushrooms in shiitake mushroom stewed chicken. Chloe Smith remembered that Kevin Johnson listened to her theory with disdain at the time and said, like the you inside of me. Then the two of them were silent. Kevin Johnson didn't actually want to make a lewd joke. He was just saying it off the cuff, without thinking too much. Apart from bickering, the two of them had never even held hands, let alone philosophical things like you and me. Chloe Smith raised her head and watched Kevin Johnson's ears turn red, then his face, then his neck. Kevin Johnson also noticed, and then covered Chloe Smith's eyes with his big hand, not letting her see his red face, and shouted in his heart, damn, what the fuck did I just say? Chloe Smith wasn't the kind of person who blushed easily. Her heart was also pounding, but her face was calm. She immediately had dirty thoughts at the time. After all, she had read the page in the biology book about the male and female anatomy 3 times. But she would pretend to be calm, using a voice that desperately suppressed her laughter to say, take your hand away. The matter passed awkwardly like this, and the two never mentioned it again. What Chloe Smith didn't know was that this matter had a profound impact on Kevin Johnson. He sneaked into the bathroom to wash his underwear for 3 consecutive days that week. For 3 consecutive days. Every morning. When he woke up, he lifted the quilt and a thought flashed through his mind, again. He thought he was pathetic. It was just a wet dream for 3 days. Chloe Smith bit off the top of the caramelized hawthorn with a snap. Trenton Moore asserted, still a little girl, loves sweets. The two walked to the Ding Bridge. It was actually just a small arch bridge, because it connected Ho-Hi and Central Park Lake, like the slender waist of a gourd, so it was also considered a scenic spot. There was a willow tree by the bridge, and the willow branches were bare at this time. An exercising grandma was hitting the tree hard with her back. A bicycle was leaning against the bridge. A classic bike. You might not have seen it. Trenton Moore pointed to the bicycle and asked, We were so envious of anyone who had one back then. Chloe Smith shook her head. I've seen it. My grandpa used to have one and used to take me to and from school. It was so tall that my feet couldn't touch the ground when I rode it. I even fell once. Actually, it wasn't just once. She had also ridden that bike with Kevin Johnson. The two of them went to the Youth Palace, with Don't Touch stuffed in the basket. Not long after leaving the Courtyard neighborhood, they both fell into the ditch. Later, Chloe Smith's grandpa had to pull them out. Trenton Moore put one hand on the bridge and looked at Ho-Hi. They're all artificial lakes, dug out. Bay-Hi, Ho-Hi, Central Park Lake. The soil that was dug out was piled up into Jingshan, placed behind the Forbidden City for the emperor to see. Actually, the emperor was pretty easy to fool. He was quite satisfied with a rockery. It used to be said that there was a CI under Bay-Hi, and then people found iron chains in a large well in Wangfujing. The big iron chains were very long, and you couldn't see the end no matter what. It was said that this was the CI and the other end was chained to a dragon. The more it was spread, the more evil it became, and people didn't dare to pull it out, so they put the iron chains back as they were and sealed the well. Interesting, isn't it? They all say that in New York City, if you like a girl, you should take her to Bay-Hi Park, go boating in the summer, and ice skating in the winter, and look at the white pagoda on the lake. So why not Central Park Lake? Because this used to be a wild lake, no one managed it. There were many accidents when ice skating in the winter. The water wasn't deep. New York City doesn't have deep lakes. The deepest Bay-Hi is only 4 or 5 meters deep. But it's unbearable to fall into a few meters deep lake in the dead of winter, especially if you fall into an ice hole wearing a down jacket. The water gets sucked into your clothes and you sink. Before, people made their own ice sleds, cutting steel angle iron into ice blades, and taking the coal prongs from home to use as crutches. You had to wear gloves when skating, otherwise the iron prongs would freeze your hands. Later, the West and East Side thugs fought over territory, agreeing to fight on the edge of Central Park Lake. One of our West Side guys was hit in the head with a brick and died on the spot. Chloe Smith turned to look at Trenton Moore. The West Side won, and Central Park Lake was controlled by the West Side gang. In winter, they circled it with ropes and surrounded it with bamboo poles, carving out a piece on the ice. If you wanted to ice skate, you paid a few dollars to rent ice sleds and skates. It was pretty well managed, and there were almost no accidents. But at the beginning of winter, the thugs didn't dare to open a shop to rent ice equipment, because the ice wasn't thick at that time, it was still brittle. You had to wait until January or February, when the ice was solid. There were also some bold ones. I once saved a pregnant woman in this area. People wear a lot of clothes in the winter. She was walking on the ice with a big belly, and at that time it was just the beginning of winter, and the ice hadn't frozen solid yet. I felt something was wrong when I looked at her from the shore. I watched from the shore. I thought I would go home after seeing the pregnant woman safely reach the other side. But the more I looked, the more I felt something was wrong, because the pregnant woman was walking aimlessly, circling on the ice. As a result, a piece of ice was thin, and she stepped on it and fell in. I was so scared that I ran over and jumped into the hole and dragged her to the shore. At that time, I relied on being young and in good health, and I forgot about the cold. I just thought that nothing could happen. If something happened, it would be 2 lives lost. I carried her all the way to Bellevue Hospital. That pregnant woman had a tough life. After being sent to the hospital, a checkup revealed that nothing was wrong, just a little frostbite, and the baby in her belly was also healthy. Later, when I went to Bellevue Hospital again, the doctor there recognized me and secretly told me that the pregnant woman hadn't planned to live, because her husband had been hit in the back of the head during a fight and died. The two had loved each other to death before. After the pregnant woman woke up, she just cried, crying about why she didn't die. The doctor also advised her that since she had been saved, she should live well for herself. Don't do stupid things again. After the pregnant woman was discharged from the hospital, she went everywhere to ask people about me, looking for me. Fortunately, I had told the doctor, and the doctor kept his mouth shut. I didn't think about whether she wanted to thank me, maybe she was looking for someone to beat me up. The man smiled self-deprecatingly in the twilight. After all, people had the determination to die, but I dragged them out. Chloe Smith felt herself shaking. She knew what Trenton Moore was talking about. She turned to look at Trenton Moore. At this moment, Trenton Moore reached out and tucked a few strands of stray hair that were stuck to Chloe Smith's lips behind her ears. The man's fingertips were cool. After tucking it behind her ear, his hand was placed on top of Chloe Smith's head. Trenton Moore leaned down, came closer, and put his forehead against Chloe Smith's forehead, and said softly, "The little girl who fell into the ice with her mom 20 years ago seems to have grown up obediently." Chloe Smith shook her head, and tears flowed uncontrollably. She wiped them away quickly and said in a low voice, "No, I haven't. She really wasn't obedient at all. She lived in hatred and was constantly fantasizing and awkward, feeling sorry for herself. Everything in her life wasn't something she had initiated. It was all life telling her, this is how you should be, this is your fate. You're just a courtyard neighborhood kid whose dad was a thug and whose mom didn't want her. Your life isn't good, but it's not particularly bad, so you can't complain, because there are many people who are worse off than you. If you complain, you're ungrateful." So she actively hated New York City, hated winter, she hated this place, and drew a line with everything, so nothing could hurt her. The tears at this moment weren't just sadness, they were very complicated. She felt wronged. Trenton Moore looked at Chloe Smith for a while and continued, "Do you want to hear what happened later? After that, in the winter of that same year, I went into the water again to save a young couple who were in love on the ice. The man struggled too much, and it took some effort to save him. Maybe I stayed in the ice water for too long. I got myocarditis after going ashore, and it never got better." Chloe Smith vaguely guessed what "never got better" meant. Trenton Moore's tone was light, and then he casually pointed, "Those are the two people." Chloe Smith looked over. "Really? Fake." "I just pointed randomly." Trenton Moore smiled. "I didn't see their faces at the time, and I never saw them again. So for me, walking on the street, maybe it's these two people, maybe it's those two people, it doesn't matter who it is." "Then, what matters?" Chloe Smith asked. I've always felt so bored. It might be a little preachy to say this, but I think what matters is that you actively connect with the world. This world has people you love, people you hate, people you miss, and people who leave you. But whether it's love or hate, you have a bond with the world. You know that some things in this world have happened because of you. I once pulled a cat out of a chimney. Trenton Moore said, "When the cat was rescued, it looked like a lump of coal. When I took it home and gave it a bath, I found out it was a white kitten. Later, this cat always scratched at the bird's nest on the roof, and one day it knocked the bird's nest to the ground, and a family of swallows flew away. I don't know where they nested. Later, that family of swallows moved to Chloe Smith's house. Her grandma saw the bird's nest and named Chloe Smith. The operation of this world is complex, but not disordered. Everything has a memory. You have to actively throw pebbles into the lake to see the ripples." "It's getting late." Trenton Moore walked towards the bridge. Chloe Smith was still looking at the lake. When she came back to her senses, she only saw the white cat, squatting under the bridge, quietly waiting for her. And Trenton Moore disappeared. Snowflakes began to fall in the sky. When Chloe Smith woke up, she was sitting in front of the refrigerator, her body aching, feeling like she had been sitting on the floor all night. It was already dawning outside the window. There were baked sweet potatoes wrapped in craft paper next to her. She lowered her head and hugged a white cat. It was the Kong family's cat, Don't Touch. The old cat was lying peacefully in Chloe Smith's arms, still warm, but no longer breathing. Chloe Smith got up, found a cardboard box in the corner, and carefully put the cat in it. Then she put the cardboard box under the tree in the shared courtyard home. After thinking about it, she put up a sign, "I'll take care of it when I get back, do not touch." Then she went to brush her teeth and wash her face. She sneezed several times while brushing her teeth, and toothpaste sprayed on the mirror. She patiently wiped the mirror. When changing clothes, she thought about wearing something festive for Christmas/New Year, but after thinking about it, she pulled out a white sweater to wear. Then she locked the door and went to the hospital. She ran into Aunt Teresa Wilson, who was buying breakfast downstairs near the hospital. Aunt Teresa Wilson was carrying soy milk and fried dough sticks in her hand. Then she raised the fried dough sticks and waved to Chloe Smith. "Chloe Smith, have you eaten? Come on, let's go up and eat together. I bought a copy for your grandma too." Kevin Johnson woke up this morning. Yesterday the doctor said that he would wake up at night after the anesthesia wore off, but this brat slept all night and didn't wake up in the middle, which scared me into thinking his brain was damaged. Guess what? After waking up in the morning, he kept grinning and insisted on getting up to wash his hair, saying he dreamed you came and he was afraid his hair was stinky. I told him, "Chloe Smith's grandma is here, of course she's coming. And he has to have someone wait on him to wash his hair with that cast on his leg. You say he's just being difficult. Besides, didn't you two just see each other last week? Why are you acting like you haven't seen each other in 800 lifetimes?" Aunt Teresa Wilson was still rambling. Chloe Smith stopped and looked a little strange. "Last week? Ah, he said you two went to the bookstore." Aunt Teresa Wilson said. "Last week Kevin J. Johnson went out dressed in all black, wearing a mask, and if he hadn't said he was going to the bookstore, she would have thought he was going to rob someone. As a result, he came home with a gloomy look on his face at night, and she thought something had happened. "We had a fight, didn't you know?" Chloe Smith said tentatively. She was also confused, because yesterday she saw Aunt Teresa Wilson, and her attitude was exactly the same as before, and she didn't mention that the two had broken up. A fight? Aunt Teresa Wilson also stopped. Aunt Teresa Wilson hadn't seen Chloe Smith at their place for the past 2 years, simply assuming she was a young woman now and felt awkward visiting. Besides, Kevin Johnson had told her, "She's busy with her studies, living at school most of the time, so don't worry about it. We're doing great. All you do is ask, ask, ask. She'll be your daughter-in-law sooner or later. She's not going anywhere." "Oh, it's nothing, just a little spat," Chloe Smith immediately corrected. "Oh." Aunt Teresa Wilson sounded relieved. The hospital room was on the 3rd floor, and Chloe Smith and Aunt Teresa Wilson didn't want to wait for the elevator, so they took the stairs. When they were almost to the 2nd floor, Chloe Smith stopped, hesitated for a moment, and then spoke. "Aunt Teresa Wilson, doesn't Kevin Johnson have an uncle named Trenton Moore? Why are you suddenly asking about that?" Aunt Teresa Wilson's expression stiffened. After a long silence, she sighed. "He passed away 20 years ago. Why are you asking about him? Did Kevin Johnson tell you?" Chloe Smith had already guessed something along those lines, so she wasn't particularly shocked. Gathering her thoughts, she didn't want to lie, but she didn't want to tell Aunt Teresa Wilson about last night either, so she just said, "I was just asking. I heard he was a very good person." He was a very, very good person. About 20 years ago, in the dead of winter, he first saved a pregnant woman, came home with a fever, and before the fever could break, a week later he saved a young couple who had fallen into the water. Because they'd been in the water for too long, he developed myocarditis after getting them ashore, was sent to the hospital, and passed away a few days later. He was healthy and had barely been sick since he was a child. I never thought someone so sturdy would leave so suddenly. But there's an old saying that people who never get sick suddenly get a life-threatening illness when they do. My younger brother was a college student 20 years ago, smart and an honest, kind person. Everyone in the neighborhood liked him. For the first few years after Trenton Moore passed away, the elders in the family couldn't accept it and would cry every time they passed Central Park Lake. The pain of a parent burying their child. Did Kevin Johnson tell you that our family never celebrates Kevin Johnson's birthday? I was pregnant with Kevin Johnson when his uncle was hospitalized. Kevin Johnson was born on the day his uncle passed away. I've seen photos. He looks a lot like Kevin Johnson, Chloe Smith said. They were practically made from the same mold. Everyone in the family says that Trenton Moore couldn't bear to leave the Kong family, so he came back to be reincarnated. We all want to believe that. I originally wanted to send Kevin Johnson abroad, but he stubbornly refused. It infuriated me. Later, he said he wanted to get into X university and finish college for his uncle. When I heard him say that, the elders in the family were saddened, and I didn't force him anymore. But Kevin Johnson lived up to expectations and actually got into X university, in the same major as his uncle. It was actually his uncle who brought Snowball back. He said he was stuck in the chimney and couldn't get out. Trenton Moore pulled him out, covered in soot like a lump of coal. After he was washed, we FOUND out he was a little white cat. When Trenton Moore first passed away, I felt particularly resentful. They say good people are rewarded, so why was my brother, who was such a good person, taken from this world in his early 20s, in the prime of his life? Was it really worth it to do that for unrelated strangers? Before Trenton Moore passed away, he comforted me, saying that he didn't regret or resent anything. It was all fate, and he didn't blame anyone. His only regret was that he had lived so many years without experiencing the taste of love, without properly loving a girl. At this point, Aunt Teresa Wilson was already sobbing uncontrollably. He took my hand at the time and said, "Sis, if there's a next life, I'll definitely find the right girl and love her for a lifetime. I won't be afraid of young love, from childhood sweethearts to growing old together. When you have someone to love, you don't have to be a hero and can just live a good life, without worrying your wife." Chloe Smith went to the hospital bathroom, and later sat in Grandma's room for a long time before finally plucking up the courage to walk to Kevin Johnson's room. When Aunt Teresa Wilson saw Chloe Smith arrive, she stood up. "Chloe Smith's here. There's soy milk here, and the fried dough sticks are a little cold, eat them with the soy milk. I'll go sit with Chloe Smith's grandma for a while you two talk." After Aunt Teresa Wilson left, only Chloe Smith and Kevin Johnson were left in the room. After not seeing each other for more than 2 years, Kevin Johnson's leg was in a cast, hanging in the air, and the boy was lying half reclined on the bed in a somewhat comical pose, but his expression was haughty. His face was tense, his jawline like a marble statue, and his mouth was pressed into a line. Although he was angry, Chloe Smith thought his angry expression was excessively handsome, as long as you didn't look at the leg in the cast. The boy had a lot of weight, and his complexion was a little pale. A few strands of black hair softly lay on his forehead, and the tips were still damp from just being washed. Although the atmosphere was cold and silent, his eyes betrayed him. They were dark and bright, as if embracing Chloe Smith. Chloe Smith was trembling a little, but not from the cold. The room was quite warm, and dried orange peels were placed on the heater. Her heart was trembling, but also softening completely. She heard herself say, "Long time no see, Kevin Johnson." Kevin Johnson didn't answer. His leg was in a cast, making it difficult to move. He rummaged around in the bedside table and pulled out a black pen that he had prepared long ago, leaned over, and wrote a sentence on the cast. After 2 years, 10 days, and 7 hours, Chloe Smith came to apologize to me of her own accord. February 5, 2019, recorded in room 304 of Bellevue Hospital. After writing, Kevin Johnson looked up, glanced at Chloe Smith quickly, and then looked at the corner of the room, saying somewhat awkwardly, "Do you know you were wrong?" Chloe Smith took a breath, walked to Kevin Johnson's bed, and took his hand. Kevin Johnson's fingers were cold, and he flinched when Chloe Smith took hold of them, but then Chloe Smith gripped them tightly. They gripped each other for a long time without speaking, until Kevin Johnson spoke. "Chloe Smith, how long are you going to keep molesting me? Isn't it enough that I've forgiven you?" It was still the familiar tone that made you want to kick him. Chloe Smith looked at him with tenderness and sighed, "You're too easy to coax." The boy snorted. "If I'm so easy to coax, why did you wait 2 years to come?" He had been wandering around the places where Chloe Smith might appear almost every week, just waiting for a chance encounter so they could make up. But since then, Chloe Smith hadn't left her house, spending her weekends in isolation. He couldn't very well wait in her ard courtyard home, that would be too obvious. He had his pride. Hearing these words, Chloe Smith unexpectedly shed 2 tears. Kevin Johnson immediately panicked, wanting to wipe away her tears, but not daring to touch her face. He sat up in bed abruptly and said, "Why are you crying out of nowhere?" Chloe Smith wiped her face and smiled. "I don't know either. I didn't mean to cry." The boy frowned, looking at her as if judging whether her words were true. Chloe Smith said, "I still need to apologize properly. Kevin Johnson, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said those hurtful things when I knew you cared about me." Kevin Johnson's eyes widened. Then Chloe Smith pulled up a chair, leaned closer, and asked mysteriously, "So, am I still a daughter-in-law of the Kong family?" Kevin Johnson's face turned red. He had said the words daughter-in-law of the Kong family countless times in private and to the neighbors, but he had never actually said it to Chloe Smith's face. But how could Chloe Smith not know? He felt embarrassed that she had brought it up. He touched his ears, which were hot, and didn't know where to put his hands. "You always have been. A little spat doesn't change that. Once you've stepped through the Kong family's door, it's not so easy to leave." Then he said in a low voice, "My mom doesn't know we fought. Don't let it slip." "Humph, all bark and no bite," Chloe Smith thought to herself. Then she closed her eyes, opened them again, grabbed Kevin Johnson's bewildered hands, stood up, kissed Kevin Johnson on the forehead, and said, "Good boy." Kevin Johnson swallowed hard, stunned for a moment. After kissing him, Chloe Smith nonchalantly took a bag of oranges from the bedside table, picked one out, and began to peel it, without batting an eye. At this moment, Kevin Johnson felt a surge of shame. What to do? He felt like he had been pinned to the bed. Like a pure young woman being taken advantage of by the village chief. Ugh. He looked at Chloe Smith peeling the orange and felt a little aggrieved, feeling that this woman peeling the orange was particularly irresponsible. "Hey, how can you pick such a pretty orange to peel?" Kevin Johnson said, trying to find something to say. Chloe Smith glanced at him and said, "Don't go looking for trouble." Then Kevin Johnson took the bag of oranges from the table and rummaged through it. "What are you picking?" Chloe Smith asked, speechless. "I have to start with the ugliest one." "Why are you still so?" Chloe Smith remembered that Kevin Johnson had always been like this. Since kindergarten, he liked to save all the good things. When eating, he would always put the things he liked to eat aside and only eat them with the last bite of rice. He clearly came from a well-off family. She didn't know what had traumatized him. Later, when they grew up, Kevin Johnson hadn't changed this habit. Chloe Smith wanted to tease him, so she would always use her chopsticks to take the food he had been saving for so long and eat it. She would also teach him triumphantly, "If you save the good stuff until the end, you'll end up with nothing. That's a lesson life is teaching you." So what? Kevin Johnson finally picked out the ugliest orange. "So fond of saving things. You haven't changed this habit. I used to take away the things you liked to eat. Why haven't you learned your lesson?" Chloe Smith peeled an orange and fed Kevin Johnson a slice. Everything between them was very natural, as if the 2-year Cold War had never happened. Kevin Johnson peeled the ugly orange on his own and said casually, "Are you stupid? I was actually waiting for you to take it." Chloe Smith's heart skipped a beat. She glanced at Kevin Johnson. The boy's phoenix eyes were slightly narrowed, his nose was high and straight, his Adam's apple was bobbing. He looked like a huge Saint Bernard, with a keg tied around his neck, staring at her motionlessly, as if saying, "Come drink the wine in the keg. You'll be warm." Later, Chloe Smith told Kevin Johnson that Snowball had died. The two of them properly buried Snowball and even broke off a small piece of sweet potato to put in the soil. She also told him about what happened that night, a brief version. Kevin Johnson didn't say anything. "What are you thinking about?" Chloe Smith poked his arm. Kevin Johnson pondered and said, "Even though if reincarnation is real, then my uncle is me. I'm still a little jealous. Kevin Johnson, are you sick in the head? Chloe Smith deliberately swore. Because she was also a little guilty. Also, that means I'm your savior, what's with that attitude? Kevin Johnson said condescendingly, my life is so hard. In the end, my past life had to step in and give you a way out before you were willing to come see me. It makes me sad just thinking about it. Chloe Smith, you have no heart. Then he pretended to be on the verge of tears. Then Chloe Smith kicked him. Teacher, the hall monitor kicked someone. Kevin Johnson pretended to raise his hand to tell the teacher. Kevin Johnson, you're so childish. The hall monitor thing was 800 years ago. Chloe Smith twisted his arm again. After February, it entered March. Chloe Smith's grandma and Kevin Johnson were discharged from the hospital one after another. The coldest time in New York City had passed. Without the bleak atmosphere, the air had a human touch. And the stinky smell of love. Chloe Smith and Kevin Johnson being together seemed natural. They were both going to college in New York City, they were old enough to date, and they knew each other well. Their families were very satisfied, especially since Aunt Teresa Wilson had regarded Chloe Smith as her daughter-in-law since she was a child. But Kevin Johnson's official confession was unique. Even though I'm not very promising, I'll definitely work hard in the future and earn money to buy delicious food for my wife. As he said that, he pinched Chloe Smith's cheek. Chloe Smith thought to herself, you're a student at X University, you're being too humble. Chloe Smith gently took Kevin Johnson's hand away and complained, why is everything related to eating? The boy thought for a moment, raised an eyebrow, and said with feigned seriousness, well, there are some things I'm too embarrassed to say. What things? Then his tone changed. Kevin Johnson put his hand on Chloe Smith's shoulder and pulled the girl closer. What things do you think? He had been brooding over the forehead kiss from last time, so he was going to get even. He leaned close to Chloe Smith's ear. You know perfectly well, don't you? Then he turned the tables. I'm warning you, don't provoke me. I'm a young man full of energy. Chloe Smith? I didn't provoke you. Hey, where are you putting your hand? One weekend, Kevin Johnson went to see Chloe Smith. They walked hand in hand on the way to the movie theater, swinging their arms back and forth when no one was around, like two elementary school students. The mobile breakfast carts on the street also sold candy-coated hawthorn skewers. Kevin Johnson pointed to the candy-coated hawthorn skewers on the bamboo sticks and asked, do you want candied yam? Chloe Smith was stunned. Seeing that Chloe Smith didn't answer, Kevin Johnson said to the vendor, one stick of yam, and one stick with sticky rice. Chloe Smith pulled him. I can't finish it. I'll eat it if you can't finish it. Kevin Johnson scanned the QR code to pay. Chloe Smith looked at the price, $30 for 2 candy-coated hawthorn skewers. Why are they so expensive now? They used to be $1 a stick. Kevin Johnson was incredulous. $1 a stick? That was 20 years ago, before we were even born. Are you stupid, Chloe Smith? Then, as if remembering something, he paused and said, did he buy you one too? Then he said crap under his breath. He turned his head and held up 2 fingers to the vendor. Then I'll take 2 of each. Chloe Smith was amused and annoyed. Who was he angry with? When choosing, Kevin Johnson pointed. I want this one with more sugar. Chloe Smith stared straight at him. Why are you looking at me? Kevin Johnson held up 4 candy-coated hawthorn skewers, acting like he was crazy. Here, I'll bite off the hawthorn for you, and leave the sticky rice for you. You better not think it's gross. You just want to eat the sticky rice in the middle, don't you? Kevin Johnson carefully bit off the hawthorn and handed it to Chloe Smith, who was still looking at him. Don't look at me like that, I can't take it. Hurry and take it. Kevin Johnson's face was a little red. You're so good to me. Chloe Smith looked away and took the candy-coated hawthorn skewers. She said silently in her heart, I'll be good to you too. Is that all it takes to be good to you? Chloe Smith, you're so unsophisticated. You can be bought off with candy-coated hawthorn skewers. Kevin Johnson said this, but the corners of his mouth turned up. He savored the words over and over again and exclaimed, Why is this mouth so sweet? Did you do something to apologize for? Chloe Smith, I've noticed you've changed. Then he started acting again. Oh, the things I put up with. You barely start dating, then immediately do something to apologize for. I, a pure male college student, Chloe Smith, I didn't expect you to be such a scumbag. But why do I like it so much? Halfway through his act, Kevin Johnson pointed to the milk tea shop. Do you want milk tea? Then I want half sugar, I'm on a diet recently. What are you dieting for? You're perfect the way you are, you've got a chest and a butt. Then he leaned in and smacked Chloe Smith loudly on the cheek, and said after kissing her, "Hey, I never realized I was such a hooligan, TSK TSK. The April wind carried gentleness, and girls were already starting to go bare-legged on the street. The winter in N.E.W. York City had come to an end. Actually, winter was pretty good too, Chloe Smith thought.